Live from Nashville, Tennessee, it's theTHREE with the Studio C Band. And here's your host, Laura Harris-Smith.
Hi everybody, I'm Laura Harris-Smith. You're watching theTHREE, and I have a very special guest today. The last time he was with us, he was pitching his new book, God and Donald Trump. And he also teased us with his next book on Aftershock. Well, both of those have been bestsellers, and now he is here today to describe the new book and talk to us about it. It is God, Trump, and the 2020 election. Now listen to this subtitle: Why He Must Win and What's at Stake for Christians if he loses. Please welcome with me back to theTHREE, the CEO of Charisma, Media, and the founder of Charisma Magazine, Stephen Strang. How you doing, Stephen? And my friend, great. It's good to see you again.
Good to be back.
Yeah, last time you were here with us, I believe it was season 2, we just barely scratched the surface, but you told us some things about the president. In fact, you said something, you asked me, what if I'd like to know something that I would maybe find surprising about him. The answer you gave me is what 2 other people now that I've met him have said, which is that he is humble when he's with you. He is locked in. He gave you longer, than you expected. And so that was really good information to have. I want to know about the new book, and you may even want to touch on maybe what happened in between Aftershock and it.
Well, the other 2 books were written after the fact. In fact, in a way, I felt I was writing history. There were certain things that I felt needed to be put on the record. Mm-hmm. I'm a publisher. I've published, believe it or not, over 3,000 books.
I was going to ask you that. Wow.
And in a way, it's easier to just publish other people's books.
Mm-hmm,
We've published, believe it or not, 50 million copies. But this one, because I'm passionate about what's going on in our country, because I have been so involved in trying to get the president elected on my own platforms, never with the campaign, because I had interviewed him, because we'd written many words, both online and print. I wanted to do it because there was a spiritual aspect to it. His election was prophesied many years before he even went into politics.
Sure was.
And the secular people don't talk about that. The second book was about the aftershock of the earthquake of his beating Hillary Clinton. But this one is written 10 months before the election because it's my attempt to motivate Christians to vote. Now, all Americans need to vote. All conservatives have a stake. But, for more than 40 years, I've been writing to and ministering to and reporting on the Christian community. And Christians, by and large, are a little bit passive. They tend to be nice people. They figure someone else will do it. Some of them are so focused on God and church and all that kind of stuff that they just kind of ignore all this. And there's nothing wrong with being focused on those things. There's more important things in politics.
Sure.
But in our country, every 4 years we elect a president. Every 2 years we elect senators and Congress people, and of course all year long we're electing somebody locally. This is important, and what's happened is the church has been so quiet and in some ways compromised. I have a whole chapter in the book called Compromise in the Church, that a lot of the mess our culture is in, where it's just almost like going over a cliff.
It is.
Donald Trump is not the answer, but Donald Trump is the one that's here now. He's become our champion in a way that we would not have thought in 2016. And but still a lot of Christians, in fact now with everything that's going on in the Democratic Party, there are some Christians that think, oh, it's a slam dunk. Well, it's not. I have a whole chapter in the book on why he might lose. There's a whole, you mentioned what he's like. There's a whole section on understanding Donald Trump. And that includes everything from promises made, promises kept. He's the one politician that it seems really, really important to him to keep the promises he made.
We're synced up because I was going to ask you this. Like, what do you think are the things that he has done for Christians? That's basically who's watching right now. What has he done for them?
Well, the number one thing for Christians and all Americans is putting judges on the bench who actually follow the Constitution instead of making up the laws they go by. You know, same-sex marriage was rejected in more than half the states by vote. some kind of referendum. Every state's a little bit different.
Right.
It went to the Supreme Court. One justice, Anthony Kennedy, decided it would have been 5-4 the other way if he'd voted the other way. Right. One unelected official. And so the judges are very important. And of course, there's things that he's done that have benefited all Americans, from the tax cuts to the booming economy, cutting down on regulations which help business. But as far as Christians is concerned, he's articulated in some speeches. In fact, he did a speech before the United Nations on persecuted Christians that was so good I put it as an appendix in the book because it was just very, very articulate.
Amazing.
His State of the Union address articulated basic values, American values, but was very strong that every life was a gift from God. He's been very strong against abortion as much as he can. He wants to protect Americans. He wants us to be secure. The border is very important. I have a whole chapter called God Loves Borders. Some of it's about boundaries in our own lives, but some of it's about what God says in the Bible about nations, about how we treat the foreigner in our midst. It's the spiritual way to look at the immigration issue that we have. But then there's another section that's called Understanding the Spiritual Dimension. Now, as a Christian, you understand, and most of your viewers understand, or should understand, that really everything is spiritual. Someday we're going to die, but then we're going to live forever.
That's right. That's
spiritual. We can't see or touch or define spirituality in the way that we can, something like this. But just because we can't see it doesn't make it exist. We can't see gravity. We can only see
the wind.
If the wind's blowing something, you sort of, but that's the effect of the wind. Gravity, you can see the effect of it. You can't really see electricity. You can't understand how the electricity goes through all the wires and suddenly you're talking to somebody around the world. But yet we accept that scientifically, but most people don't accept the spiritual dimension. There is a war going on. We Christians call it spiritual warfare because it's between good and evil. It's going on. It's been going on from the beginning of time, every single day, against every single person and every single government and leader. It's not just Donald Trump, but it's almost like it's come to a crescendo. And part of it's because he's a disruptor. Part of it's that the other side has not been getting their way. And it's not just political, of course. It's in the culture. It's morally. Anything goes. Donald Trump is not a pastor. He's not a Christian leader. But he has seen that we're losing our religious liberties. He believes that the basis, our Judeo-Christian basis of our country that the founders founded it on, is legitimate. There are some people who don't think it's legitimate, and even if they admit it exists, they want to change it. They want to change America from what it's been. Donald Trump is wanting America to go back to the greatness that God, I believe, has a purpose for America. There's forces in our world that want to pull it down, and if America's pulled down, if it becomes any other country, especially any other socialist country, we won't be the shining light on the hill. And so that's why it's very important that we vote and that we get other people to go vote.
When we come back from the break, I want to ask you just a very simple question. What makes America great? And what keeps it great? Because that's his theme. And a lot of people, they've lost sight of that. People were even offended over the idea that it had not been great for a while, but I think you have some insight on that, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break. You're watching The Three.
Hi, I'm Laura Harris-Smith, inventor of Quiet Brain Essential Oil Blend. If you would have told me 2 years ago when I was mixing that very first little bottle that we would have thousands of customers from all over the world and that we'd have to quadruple our staff to keep up with the demand produced by our international TV infomercial, I'm not sure I would have believed you. And if you told me I'd be hearing regular testimonies of improved sleep, reduced stress, migraine relief, even help with other neurological challenges like seizures, PTSD, tremors, muscle spasms, even anxiety, well, I probably would have cried. And sometimes, when I'm reading a Quiet Brain testimony, I do. But if you would have told me 1 year ago when we introduced our Quiet Brain Variety Gift Box that it would become the biggest selling item on our online store at quietbrainoil.com, I would have said, I believe it. The reason is because I created the gift box to be the perfect combination of all of our Quiet Brain products. The oil itself for topical use on the skin that contains only certified pure oils that can cross the blood-brain barrier and bring speedy relief and neurological support. And our aromatherapy line with our Quiet Brain shampoo and conditioner, candles, inhalers, all of which use the nasal passages to gain direct access to the limbic brain, which is the emotional center of the brain. So whether you need to use Quiet Brain topically or aromatherapeutically, the Quiet Brain gift box has everything that you need. And now we've given our gift box an upgrade without increasing the price. It now comes with our satin Quiet Brain Sleep Eye Mask. Just put a few drops of oil on the nose guard and you're on your way to enjoying a good night's sleep. And it all comes packaged in a beautiful gift box and delivered to the destination of your choice or sent to you so you can use it for 7 different gifts or keep a few for yourself. When sold separately, the items in the box are $160, but you're getting it for $135. That's a $25 savings, meaning that you're getting the nasal inhaler and the shampoo and conditioner for free. The Quiet Brain gift box comes with 1 Whisper Quiet Nightlight diffuser with 16 color options and intermittent mist options, 1 dropper bottle of Quiet Brain, 1 Quiet Brain nasal inhaler, 1 Quiet Brain candle, the satin sleep eye mask, and your healing shampoo and conditioner. And remember, both are color safe, aloe enriched, paraben and sulfate free, loaded with wonderful ingredients like unscented coconut oil, olive oil, sugar beet betaine, and of course the Quiet Brain blend with its 8 essential oils like lavender, frankincense, myrrh, sandalwood, and more. We get repeated testimonies of both being used with great effectiveness during headaches for pain relief. So go to quietbrainoil.com to order. Quiet Brain is a great gift for any time of the year, but especially for seasons like these that bring additional stress. Give the gift of health and peace this year. Give the gift of Quiet Brain.
Hi everybody, welcome back to theTHREE. I'm here with Stephen Strang from Charisma Media, and we're talking about his new book, God, Trump, and the 2020 Election. It's fresh out of the oven, and there's so many things that I want to get to, Stephen, but really quickly, what makes America great? You know, a lot of people don't really think about how to define that. What do you think?
America's great because America is good. And you know, from our very founding, it's been based on Judeo-Christian values. Now, is America perfect? Of course not. I mean, just look at how we treated the American Indians, and of course our great shame is slavery. But slavery existed throughout history. It was not unique to America, and it was Christian people that were abolitionists who ended slavery, and many people died. Every country is imperfect. All people are imperfect, but I believe that God ordained for America to be a shining light to the rest of the world because we follow biblical principles and work hard and are honest. Our economy has boomed. I believe it's the blessing of God. Now, some people who don't agree with this say, well, they'll cite something like the way we treated the Indians or even slavery and say, well, he's wanting to go back to that. Of course not. He's wanting to go back to that. They call it American exceptionalism. That there's just something exceptional. Look at all the inventions that started right here in America, from the telephone to the airplane.
That's right.
You know, a lot of things, of course, all the technology that we enjoy now that we have in our hand is because of the space race.
That's right.
It was technology developed to put a man on the moon.
That's right.
And you know, you could write books about this, but Donald Trump gets this intuitively. Nobody had, it wasn't like there was a movement and they went out and drafted Donald Trump. He gets it. And I think that the American people who are looking for someone to change things, because the Republicans would promise one thing when they ran and do something entirely different, and frankly not be that different from the Democrats. It's only on a couple of big issues on the platform that there's a whole lot of difference. And in our binary system, we're forced to vote one way or the other. It's not because one party is better than the other. They're both bad, in my opinion. But there's something special about Donald Trump. I believe that God raised him up. I really do. I make the case in my book, God, Trump, and the 2020 election. People can disagree with me if they want to, but I make the case the best I can, and hopefully the readers will come to the same conclusion. And really, it's almost an apologetic on why to vote for Donald Trump, even if you don't like his latest tweet, and what's going to happen if you vote for the other guy or don't vote at all. And so I hope that people actually get it. You can pick it up anywhere, Barnes & Noble,
wherever
Walmart.
good books are sold.
That's right, and it's not easy to get books in the big boxes, as they call them. But we want to be out there in the marketplace. The book has given me an opportunity to be on all kinds of TV shows, including a lot of secular TV, to talk about these issues, because the secular people don't talk about it, and even a lot of the Christian people say, well, politics is dirty, we don't want to dirty our hands. But you know what? It's going to be pretty bad. It's going to be pretty bad if we don't do something to stop it. And while I don't think our situation is nearly as bad as it was in Germany when Hitler came to power, there are an awful lot of Christians who didn't want to get involved. They didn't think it would ever get as bad as it did. When I was a child, we would have never thought that there would be transgender bathrooms.
No.
We never heard of such a thing.
No.
And I mean, that's only one example of many.
It's just one.
And so Christians need to wake up. Donald Trump is not our savior, of course, but we have a reprieve so the church can be the church, spread the gospel, and frankly, when he's out of office, we're going to have the same issues.
Right.
So hopefully we can get some traction, persuade people to come over on our side, and really what we need spiritually is we need not only a revival, which is kind of reviving people in the church, but an awakening where our entire culture is revived by the power of God and through the Holy Spirit.
And the personal responsibility to get involved there. I saw I think it was a 2018 interview on CNN, and some of the questions that were tossed at you, and you did a phenomenal job. And I loved how you kept bringing it back around to the idea of, I'm going to put words in your mouth, but basically what you said was, he's not my pastor, he's my president, you know.
Well, it was when Stormy Daniels was in the news. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And they were saying, finally, these Bible-believing, church-going, nice people will say they've had enough. Yeah. And I said, first of all, we didn't really know if it was true or not. I believe that that it's not true. But regardless, I said it happened a long time ago.
Right.
And I said, we don't approve of that stuff, but it's not about that, it's about the policies. Well, aren't Christians looking the other way? I said, no more than the press did with John Kennedy, who did some of that kind of stuff in the White House.
Very valid point.
And she didn't know what to say.
Right.
And then she says, doesn't your Bible say that you need forgiveness? I said, well, I'm glad you're quoting the Bible.
You said, I'm glad you're quoting the Bible. I heard that, yeah.
And I said, forgiveness is the whole essence of Christianity. And every Christian has done something, including me, that would not want on the front page of the newspaper.
That's what I thought.
So if you've been forgiven by Christ, you can understand that Donald Trump also can be forgiven for whatever he's done.
Sure. It makes total sense. Well, when we come back from the break, I hope we can fit everything in, but I'm going to ask Stephen this question. What is the #1 danger to our country if you don't get out and vote in November? We'll be right back.
Hi, Laura Harris-Smith here, and you know by now that it's a passion of mine to see people get healthy body, mind, and spirit. As a nutritionist and as someone who almost lost her life due to a lack of proper sleep, I'm convinced that sleep is the most important but the least emphasized puzzle piece for total body health. I created my Quiet Brain Essential Oil Blend to offer support to sufferers of migraine, tremor, PTSD, anxiety, seizures, and more. But one of the most frequent testimonies we get from all over the world is that it helps with insomnia. People are sleeping better with Quiet Brain. But my other passion is helping people hear God's voice, not just during the day while awake, but also at night while they sleep and dream. And that's why I wrote Seeing the Voice of God, what God is telling you through dreams and visions. And now my two worlds, that is author and inventor, really come together on this topic of sleep and dreams through my Sweet Dreams package. You get one rollerball bottle of Quiet Brain, which is comprised of lavender, frankincense, myrrh, sandalwood, and more, and a copy of Seeing the Voice of God, complete with a 1,000 symbol dream dictionary for interpreting your dreams, and instructions on which vitamins and minerals to help you better remember your dreams. Sleep is the mattress of dreams, so grab this offer while it's still available. One copy of Seeing the Voice of God and one rollerball bottle of Quiet Brain for easy application. And, while supplies last, a free Quiet Brain satin sleep eye mask. So take back your sleep with Quiet Brain and take back your dreams with Seeing the Voice of God. Order today at quietbrainoil.com.
Hi everybody, I'm Laura Harris-Smith. You're watching theTHREE. Welcome back. We know you could be watching anything today, and I'm so thankful that you're here with us. This election, are you paying attention? It is so important. And I'm joined today by Stephen Strang, the founder of Charisma Media and Charisma Magazine, and he's talking about his new book, God, Trump, and the 2020 Election. You mentioned borders a little while ago. I want to hop over to the Middle East for just a second. Israel and Isaac and Ishmael are still fighting on the news every night. You watch it. They've been fighting since the dawn of time. They're still fighting over that land. I heard the other evening on, it was a Democratic debate, and one of the candidates, I believe it was Bernie Sanders, said that he, when asked, he would be willing to move the the embassy away from Jerusalem, back to where it was. Senator Warren, when pressed, she wouldn't give an answer. She said, that's not my decision to make. It's the U.S.'s embassy. What do you think? We all know what God has used Trump to do for Israel, but why should Christians be concerned about Israel and that whole
Because the Bible says that God blesses those who bless Israel. Mm-hmm. Because the Messiah came from Israel. It's the basis of Christianity. Mm-hmm. And I believe that America's been blessed because even from back in the Revolutionary War, the Jews that were in this country felt welcomed.
Right.
In fact, there are some Jewish people that almost see America as the promised land because it's been such a land of opportunity for them. And, Congress decided to move the embassy in the Clinton administration. And none of the presidents would do it thinking, well, it's going to start some kind of war. Well, it didn't. It's ironic that Bernie Sanders would say that because, he said that he would be the first Jewish president.
Yeah, I was shocked.
And he lived over there for a period of time.
Months. Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that Christians like about Donald Trump. Now, other presidents, Harry Truman and other presidents have been very supportive of Israel as well. But we don't want to lose that, and that is one of the things we would lose if the other side wins. But you asked the question earlier, what is at stake for Christians? Well, there's a lot at stake for all Americans. Yeah. But if some Americans are not believers or they're another religion, they're not going to care in the same way that we care. Mm-hmm. But I believe the number one thing is the criminalization of Christianity through hate speech laws,
hate speech, right.
or redefining freedom of religion. There's some on the left who say it should be freedom of worship. So that means that within your church, if you want to shout and sing and raise your hand, or if you want to pray quietly with a prayer book, you should have the freedom to do it, but don't you dare say anything in the Bible that goes against their latest sin, let's say, or their latest cause, or their latest philosophy. However, the idea that socialism might run our country, that would affect all Americans, including Christians, and of course socialism is really one step removed from communism, which is atheistic, and in a lot of communist countries, Christianity was totally banned, and where it was allowed, it was very, very, very small. Yeah. And we could see that happen. And even if it didn't happen this decade, it might happen next decade.
Or the next generation, absolutely.
That's right. Yeah. We've got to stop it now before it, the old saying, a stitch in time saves nine.
Yeah, the enemy's a patient investor.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Okay, so what can people do in between now and the election, in their community? What can they be doing?
Well, everybody has a sphere of influence. Not everyone has a media platform like you do or I do, but everybody influences at least 10 or 20 people. And on social media, a lot of people influence more. You can speak up, you can try to talk people, explain the issues, try to get them to come over, encourage them to vote. So everybody can be involved in some way. When there's a rally, you can show up.
Yeah.
You can let people know what you think and not always be intimidated. A lot of people are intimidated from even wearing a hat that would indicate that they might be for Donald Trump.
Right.
And we cannot be intimidated by the other side. They're vicious. And I don't say that to be critical of any people or any group. It's just that's how it is, and we've got to be able to deal with it. But you know, as a Christian, I believe that greater is He that's within us than he that's within the world.
Right.
And we have to believe that somehow God has a plan and purpose for what's going on, and we just need to be willing to be used by God to make His will done in the earth, because ultimately, you know, we can't have the government do His will.
Yeah.
We can only have the government give us the freedom so that the church can try to do His will.
Exactly.
And our freedoms are being
Exactly.
taken away from us. And the other side we're not having to guess. I mean, some of the things they propose, I talk about this in God, Trump, in the 2020 election, what's called the Equality Act. And it was actually, they put it through Congress, it didn't get through, but every single Democrat voted for it, and basically it criminalizes criticizing the LGBT community. Period.
And it's considered hate speech, probably.
That's right. They define it as hate speech, and once they define it as hate speech, there was even a proposal in California to make the Bible a hate book. And thankfully,
I did hear about that,
the
right.
sponsor of it, who is a very,
Right.
very extreme person, some pastors actually went to him, and this person decided to back off. Thank God.
Yeah.
But it could come
Yeah.
up again. Can you imagine that?
Sure. Well, you know, another thing that they can do is they can get a copy of God, Trump, and the 2020 election. As Marilyn Hickey says, books are like missionaries. You know, they work while you're asleep. So get
And
2 or
hopefully-
3.
Hopefully it's a good read. Hopefully it'll help people understand. I have a lot of behind the scenes things you don't read anywhere else. I even have talking points for how to talk to your neighbors and
That's
relatives
amazing.
who don't like Trump, and to try to kind of win them over. And you're right, it does help get out the word. It was my way to try to encourage people, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate the opportunity to talk about the book today.
One more question. What's next for you? What does a pioneer do? You know, like what's your next horizon?
Well, I'm at an interesting place in life. I've been doing this for over 40 years.
Yeah, you have.
And we are a lot of new initiatives in our company. We're getting into video in new ways. We have a new Charisma podcast network, over 25 million downloads in 4 years. And I'll be writing more books. My next book is going to be on the awakening.
That is wonderful. You know, there's no worse place to be than where God was. And I appreciate about you and your ministry that you are always asking God, what's next? What's next? And that's what prophetic people do. They say, where are you, Lord, and where do you want me? Here I am, send me.
And we tell the stories of people that are doing things for God, too.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what we do.
Absolutely. And that's why everybody loves it. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
everything
God
that you've
bless
done.
you.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of The Three. We'll see you next time. I'm Laura Harris-Smith. Bye-bye.